I'm acutely aware that I need to take care of my physical health and my mental health so that I can take care of my teenage son and my children.
Hi, I'm Martin Kemp. With the help of Bupa, I want to encourage men to open up about their mental health challenges. So, I'm taking them on a drive. Need a lift? I want to talk about how a dad's mental health can be affected by the mental health of his children, especially teenage sons. Tell me, what's your family set up? You know, do you have kids?
I do. I have 3 of them. My eldest daughter is 19. My son is just about to turn 13, and my youngest girl is 11.
Have you ever noticed that they're suffering from mental health? Or
They have over time, you know, each of them in various different ways. Because of their ages, it kind of, I think, has affected them at different times in their life. But I've had to be quite proactive with it, as in keep an eye on it, you know, from a distance, and just, you know, make sure that if I see anything out of the ordinary, then I can get in there early and try and deal with it.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? Get in there as soon as you can.
Yeah, I think being proactive is hugely important. And I don't mean, you know, in a particularly overt way. More of just a subtle, you know, watching of them.
What have you seen that's brought it on? You know, have you noticed anything?
Yeah,
Because they face a lot of challenges that we never as kids, don't they?
right. Yeah, especially with things like social media nowadays. It puts a lot of pressure on them, I think.
Listen, it puts a lot of pressure on all of us.
Yes, it does. Yeah. But I think as a parent, you know your children.
Yeah.
You know when their behaviour is changing slightly.
Yeah.
You know, outside of the normal things like as they get to teenage years, they're going to change anyway. But you start to notice little subtle cues. And what I found has been quite effective is just to let them know that they can talk to you about anything, and to have these conversations. And I've told them since they were little, you know, anything's ever bothering you, come tell me. There's nothing off limits. There's nothing we can't talk about. You know, you be honest with me, and I'll help you in every single way that I can.
How does it make you feel seeing your kids going through a hard time? Does it take a toll on yourself?
It's probably one of the worst feelings ever. And you're not helpless, but to a degree it feels like you're helpless, and you want to take that pain and that challenge away from them, but you can't. You just have to do what you can as their parent to guide them through it, to be there for them, to be open to these conversations, and, you know, just to be there when they need you.
See, that's how I've brought my kids up as well, is to talk about everything. But even still, if my boy has a problem with his mental health, he will go to my wife. And he doesn't want to talk to me about it because he kind of feels like he's letting me down in a way.
Right.
You know.
No, and I get that, and I think that's a narrative with men across the board. So that's why I feel it's even more important now, especially with your children, to let them know that talking is important. The way I look at it is, if it's hard to do, it takes courage to do it. You have to have strength and courage to be able to talk, because it's hard.
75% of mental health issues, right, start in young men before they're 24, right? Why is it so important to address these issues like sooner rather than later?
I think prevention is better than cure, which leads to much better mental health later on down the road.
Yeah. Because, you know, there is a serious issue, isn't there, with young men and the relation to suicide.
Yes.
You know, how can we approach that earlier on without frightening them?
Have conversations like this, put it out there, other men talking, letting young men know that it's okay to talk. You need to take a proactive stance on this. You can't be afraid to talk, and there are people out there that can help. And having gone through that myself and feeling that pain and understanding that, it's not something that I want my son to go through, or I don't think any young teenager should go through, which is why I'm such an advocate now of being proactive with young men's mental health and encouraging them to seek support, being very open and honest with my son, and just letting him know that we can talk about anything that's troubling you, worrying you. You may think it's silly, I won't think it's silly. And I'll absolutely take everything you say seriously, and if it gets severe, then we'll look at, you know, the next step, which is professional help
Do you think there's a connection between the mental health of a teenager and the mental health of a parent?
Absolutely, because they're your children, and you care for them, and you love them, and you want the best for them. And if they're suffering, we're suffering.
Yeah.
And we want to help them. And as I say this, I don't mean fix them, but we want to make it better for them. And that plays on your mind. That overrides everything.
That is why I always think no matter what you're going through with your kids, with their mental health, you have to find your own space. You know, I always used to find it when I went into the gym.
Yes.
That I could get away and just have my own headspace for a while. And that would make me feel happy. You'd get the old adrenaline and endorphins running, and then I would take that home again.
I'm exactly the same. I used to think that the gym was purely about physical health.
Yeah.
And probably about 10 years ago, I realised that it's not just about that. It's about your mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm acutely aware that I need to take care of my physical health and my mental health so that I can take care of my teenage son and my children.
Yeah. Listen, pal, we're on the same page. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
If you're looking back to your teenage self, kind of what advice would you give him now?
I'm a big fan of talking. I always have been. It's so beneficial, you know, and I would say to myself, if you're struggling with anything, Mark, go to a parent, a family member, a teacher, a friend, a friend's parent, whoever it is, whoever you're comfortable with. Go to them, unload a little bit, let them know how you're feeling, and then, you know, within time, you'll feel a lot better.
Has dealing with your kids' mental health, has it ever made you feel kind of isolated?
Yes.
In what way?
Just because I think you want to figure out a way to deal with it on your own as quickly as you can, because you don't want to see them hurting. And for me personally, I would, you know, take myself off on my own, and so I guess it's kind of like self-induced, but then try and figure this out without reaching out for the help that I should have reached out for initially.
Yeah, I think the word kind of isolates puts you off a little bit, because what that really is about is that we should be talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
And where a lot of people have these problems and are too embarrassed to say, yeah, my kid's struggling at the moment, which you shouldn't, which is silly.
No, like I said, you know, it's about changing your mindset and knowing it's about them, not about you. And then all of a sudden that embarrassment disappears.
Yeah.
And you're not bothered about it because the priority is helping the children.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a big thing about seeking out for professional help, because you feel like it's going that one stage further and things have become really serious. And I don't think you should think of it like that. I think it should be just a way to get advice.
Absolutely. I mean, my son loves football. I could potentially teach him a little bit about football, but if he wants to be great, he needs to see a professional coach. Same with mental health.
What advice would you give to dads looking after their teenage son's mental health?
I think first and foremost, I would let them know that there is no manual, there's no rules to being a parent. It's a very individual thing, but to be proactive with it, to keep your eye on the ball, you know, keep an eye out for potential signs of mental health issues. Be proactive with dealing with those, but just be very open and honest with your children. Let them know that you can talk to, they can talk to you about anything.
Also, young men leaving home at an early age, that can give them stress on their mental health, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I remember leaving home for the first time on my own at 17. Yeah, thought I was a man, thought I was a tough guy, was terrified. And every night, all I wanted to do was go back home to the comfortable, warm, loving surroundings of a family home. So yeah, I absolutely, as you do, I'm sure, and many do, understand that comes with challenges.
I always remember when Roman left home, you know, just as a teenager, 19, how difficult it was for him then, and how much he needed his parents, how much he needed his mum more than anyone else. But he struggled with that.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you as a parent?
It was awful.
Yeah,
awful. It was, that whole empty nest syndrome was really difficult for me and Shirley to get over.
Did you worry about him a lot?
Oh, worried about him. I worried about Shirley because she was finding it difficult. The whole thing was much harder than I thought it was going to be.
I think I've got all that to, I was going to say look forward to, all that to deal with.
You got it
as
coming.
they grow.
You got it coming.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine how difficult that is.
I tell you what though, we are completely on the same page.
Absolutely.
Great talking to you.
You too. Thank you, mate.